2013. I think we bought our first little townhouse in Alliston. That's where it all started, right? Really? And we couldn't afford it. And it was like joint venture with 2 other people. And it was like my wife didn't know and she was very upset. Hey, it's Steve Zeldar here with RE/MAX Experts, Zeldar Associates with Mike Gaddy. We're going to talk a little bit about investing. Obviously, markets in a different circumstance right now regarding investment. We're going to talk about maybe in the future, because right now is a good opportunity for you to set a plan for when to invest. When the market bottoms out, you should be able to have some money set aside and have a plan where you can execute, because I'll be honest, we've already set up a plan. We know what we're doing. As soon as this market goes sideways, we're going to start buying again. So let's talk a little bit about what we plan to do, and then maybe we can help you guys out with your investments.
Or made a post about the land that you sold?
Yes.
Together and sold it?
Yes.
Can you tell us like a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that was cool. Again, take action when no one's not, right? Is that Warren Buffett, saying. But it's literally, I forgot how it goes anyway, but what is it? Oh, be fearful when people are greedy, be greedy when people are fearful. So we were greedy when people were fearful, and it was literally coming out of COVID. It was like April, May-ish. It was just really coming out of the depth of it. It was still pretty, obviously it was very weary to get out of the house, but ultimately this property comes up on the market. It was a nice single family dwelling in Alliston, corner of Boyne and John W. Taylor. Yeah, and John W. Taylor. So, we know I've been following the Alliston market for a while. We know that we can subdivide 50 footers off the property. So I was looking for like a year and a bit, but obviously nothing made sense with the pricing before this. And this property comes up. It did sell conditional actually to a friend of mine that's a realtor, and then they backed out on it because there was work that needed to be done. Like there was a rear wall that was caving in and stuff like that because it's a concrete block and all. And so what happens is they default on the deal. The seller puts all the work in, puts in an all new decks, spends like 15-20 grand on this property, and then sells it to me for $635 when these guys were going to pay $660 without the work. So I got a really damn good deal off it, and I saw the potential from it because it was so bungalows are the best naturally regarding creating some sort of duplex and stuff like that, but this one was a little bit more unique. We know we had one front entrance and one rear entrance. So the rear entrance was to the basement, and the kitchen in the front, obviously the front of the house. But there was another interesting fact of the property is that in the garage there was a walk-up into the so like basically a walk up from the basement into the garage. So what we thought to do is create this into a triplex because it's easy already done. So what we did is we strategically created 2 units. So one upstairs, naturally 3-bedroom, 1 bath, and then we had the second unit with the stairwell already going down. We closed off the kitchen, and then we had this another secondary unit that was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and a grand open space. But we saved enough space in the basement to create a bathroom and a bedroom and the utility room. So it's already sanctioned off or closed off. And with the walk-up, we're going to have now the basically living area, so kitchen and family room. So it's going to be a full triplex. But that was one aspect of it. So just on that point, it was a good investment to buy. But I knew the land at the back because I've been following development in that area for a while, because Alliston was pretty much the only thing I could afford. We couldn't afford York Region or Vaughan, so it's better to take action somewhere that you can afford. So this is why we went to Alliston. So I kind of learned the insides of that, the way their planning act was. So the goal was to get one severed lot off the back and never sell it, because I was getting my Tarion license at the time, and that was going to be our first project under my Tarion license, Treviso Estate Homes, I believe that the corporation was called. And we already had like a 14-unit project for townhouses down the street. We assembled 3 parcels for 14 townhouses. But this was going to be getting our feet wet, right? So we'll build this from scratch, understand the process, make sure there's no hidden costs, so that we can go into these larger projects. Good thing is I hired planners. It's always good to interview 2 to 3 people. And that's exactly what I did. On the third person I hired, it was a lady out in IPS, Innovative Planning Solutions in Barrie. Good firm, very expensive. It wasn't like I paid less for the services. I went for the more qualified planning department or planner at the time. And then ultimately what happens with this is that my planner basically said, why don't we go for 2 lots? We have enough space. We'll do a minor variance. because the setback on the rear of the property needed to be 15 feet. We're gonna shoot for 10 feet. We'll get a minor variance on that, and if not, we can change the relocation of the front and the rear of the property to kind of move around like our setbacks. And I just actually realized this week. What they did was that they cut off 51.2 feet on each lot. They didn't have to, but they kept like 2.5 feet in their back pocket. So I think what they were doing is if they rejected the 2 lots because it was that minor variance of 5 feet, because it was 10 feet off the back, the setback to the lot 3, they would have said, okay, we'll give you another 2.5 feet, so it's 7.5 feet rather than 10 feet. See,
and you would fall in.
She had an ace in her back pocket. I just realized this yesterday.
Wow.
When I was at the lots. I'm like, yeah, that's why. Why would we get 52 feet?
Yeah,
52.2 feet. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. We could have just gone 50s and be done with it. But she left a little bit so she can give. But anyway, long story short, we assembled a project. It's a year of my time to get it all together because it was a long process. Very expensive, to be honest, for the process. And clearly, obviously, the market's in its current condition. There's no value for me to build it. I don't see any upside to it if I'm going to build it and sell it. So what do you do at this point? It's like, obviously, now we've opened up a secondary office in Southwest Florida in Estero, and we see now that's going to be a better future for building. It's going to be a lot less red tape in order to develop. We'll be developing more simpler houses without basements. So there'll be, if we can get this streamlined when obviously the materials more tangible and the workforce is more tangible, between 3 and 4 months, we should be able to blast the house up and then up for sale. Clearly now we're probably like 8-9 months just based on the materials and the labor. Yeah, supply issues. But that's it. So basically that property there, we sold them off. It was literally an 800% return on investment. So initial capital invested made 800% off of it. It's huge numbers, obviously. And it's a year of time, but this is how we make money. Like, this is...
Yeah, and then like even if you wanted to go further into that, I'm sure like down the road, not that you would, but a lot of guys would go stretch to that 80% loan to value and refinance, and you'd probably have an infinite return on your money moving forward with a triplex in that building, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
like
sure.
If you factor in the price of the lots that you sold, right?
Yeah, it's basically it's the lots are free. The house is free rather.
Exactly.
The house came free. Yeah. And we still own it.
Huge.
Yeah, and we're gonna
just goes to show to take your time to hire the professional.
It was exactly. But the reality is that I wasn't born rich. I was never given anything. I think there was a rumor of me that my family was wealthy. Like, fucking please, maybe in another dimension. Because I don't know about that. Like, everything I have personally has been worked for, blood, sweat, and tears. Always 2 to 3 jobs still to now to get where we are. But it's also like stretching every dollar. Like, it was like, okay, I know I got to make money. How do you make money? You gotta make more money. You gotta almost stretch it. So it's like every dollar's got to make 5. And actually, from when I started investing, when I got back into real estate, because I was investing earlier prior to me as a realtor when I was in my early 20s. But when I got back from 2013 to now, my return on investment through everything is basically I've made 5 times the amount of money I've put into it. That's the average. So you know,
every dollar into
$5. I'm sure there's better people have done much better numbers than I have, but I'm pretty happy with those. I think it gives my family a better situation, better the opportunity in life. Obviously now we made that investment into the U.S. very costly, an investment, huge investment, and that's all liquid cash that we had to put into that at risk naturally, and we were able to do that just based on moves that we were making literally 10 years ago, because that was 2013. I think we bought our first little townhouse in Alliston. That's where it all started, right? And we couldn't afford it, and it was like joint venture with 2 other people, and it was like my wife didn't know, and she was very upset, and then it did the deal. It was like some massive ice storm. I remember it was like the apocalypse. And I was like, I told my wife, say, hey, it's like midnight, we did the deal. I'm like, you gotta go crack this piggy bank, eh? Because they're cracking the piggy banks around the house. We gotta scrape up some money. We just bought a house. What? What did you think? You bought a house? I said, we bought another house. That's like, we gotta do it. And you gotta just jump in. It's just, when you're invested, I think it's just nerve-wracking if no one's around you, especially being from, and again, people are going to get pushback saying that from a European family that they had a different experience. From my European family, my European experience, and most of the people I know had the same experience. And Mikey's the same too, was the go to work, have a pension, have a, work for a union hourly, be safe, this whole thing. When you got into like, you talked about investment at the table, it was like you were going to rob somebody. It was like, oh my God, you can't talk about this. This is sacrilegious.
Really work for that?
Still to now, like if I talk to like family members, they don't get it, but I don't care, right? Like it
is what it is.
When I start my car in the driveway, it's a little louder than everyone else's, so I'm okay with that. It means it's a little bit, so it's the best way to do it. That's what I'm trying to teach my kids too, to kind of. That's why Nicholas is here actually today. And he's playing games, but he sat in our team meeting this morning just to give him a little bit. 'Cause remember all those wealthy families that we knew? They always had access to like, and again, I'm nowhere near wealthy, but I mean, they always had access to like grown-up shit. Like the cars, the environment, the talk.
They grew up in it. Yeah.
So when they got into their late teens or early 20s, they already had this rhetoric in their mind.
Yeah.
It's all gone. They're already. My son will negotiate way better than me at this point. He's 7 and he will negotiate the shit out of everything. And not about just whatever, like getting his way. He'll negotiate deals like cash. He sold me 11 Pokemon cards for like, I don't know, $100, and he kept changing. I'll get $200. Dad, I get $270, $320. He's like, so he sold me 11 Pokemon cards for $320.
American?
Yeah, U.S. dollar. He didn't want Canadian. He's like U.S. bucks. He said. So again, this is driving from Toronto from Florida to Toronto. This is our drive, and it's just like this. Me and this kid negotiating. And I try to push back, and I want to see what, and then I'll try to correct them, like, hey, try this. Try to throw something in. Throw a Bakugan in there with the Pokemon cards. Show a little bit more value for the 311. You don't need the you know what I mean? Whatever those little balls that he throws on the floor. Yeah. The little robots. But yeah, that's just interesting, Yeah, I think so. That's why we're just trying to create a mindset for these kids going forward where they could be entrepreneurial, have capitalism. Again, that's why the investors in the U.S., because that's a real friendly place currently right now. Like anything can change, obviously, but hopefully not. We're all in. We're all in.
Well, leading into development down there right now, I guess we're kind of learning the process might be a little bit less like stringent. Like if you go buy a builder lot and just like you're saying, you're building easier, slab on grade, no basement type houses, right? So faster turnover also, which everything seems easier.
Faster turnaround. Again, it's going to have difficulties. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, but I see it being, even though the amounts of money made on each property sold will be less than Toronto, obviously, because of the cost difference. But I mean, you can multiply that there. And the workforce, I gotta be honest. So, I've watched 2 of my personal properties being built, and I'm watching my last one now, like our primary residence. And how good of a crew these guys are. Like I was a carpenter, I was a framer my whole life, or not my whole, but 8 years of my life rather, adult life. And I understand that trade better than anything. To be honest, I understand it. I understand everything. I can do it today. If I put a belt on, I'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, just watching how clean everything is. Everything was cut and nailed and like anchored, and even the bowls on the wall, like when a 2x4 has like a bowl in it, right?
Yeah.
Usually you cut it on a 45 with a skill saw. What that does, you put a nail in it, it basically straightens the stud right away. That little saw blade, 1/8 of an inch, whatever it is, it basically straightens it. They had that already done, and they did that. And I'm not boasting about the size of the house because I can really give a shit. It's my wife's fault we bought the big house. She wanted it. Blame it on her. But it's like 4,800 square foot house, 50-foot wide building. You know that in construction. It's a big house. Yeah, it's a big house. They did second floor, so roof. They have floor trusses there, which are like 16 inches deep. And
like a web joist?
Web joist, yeah. It was basically roof truss just shrank down. Same idea. Yeah, so they're very heavy. It's like you can...
Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah, 16-inch deep, and literally... and some of them will span the length of the house, or the width of the house, rather, and some of them always with beams and all that, whatever, that connection with the bearing points. But they did, so floor trusses, plywood, so sheet that whole floor. It's 4,800 square feet. We can make it all your square footage on our second floor, like here, right? Because the garage are inside. So that all the exterior walls, roof trusses, remember, it's 4,800 square feet. Like some houses when we used to build here in Kleinberg off the boulevard, Again, different roof pitches. Those are 10, 12s. Some of them, like it's a lot more work rather, and you might have double roofs. So this is a lower pitch, probably like a 412, so you can have a smaller peak. I get it. But we used to take about 3 weeks to do a house like that. It would be in the roof for like 2-3 weeks. It would be a wild thing, like nonstop material nailing. It's insane. So I'm just putting context into it. So they did the roof trusses, then they sheathed it. They did all the roofs over the garages and the rear of the house, the lanai, and also the peaks in the back for definition and stuff like that in like 3.5 days.
Wow.
It's like
a fraction of the time.
I don't know. Like I've never seen anything like.
How big were their crews?
So I didn't want to step into them too much. These guys were like ants, right? Like working. They were or like honeybees rather. But it got to be about 7-8 carpenters there, right? But they were all organized so perfectly around. Usually when we were carpenters, 4 was the best because you never bumped into each other. We're very efficient, very fast. People that had really large crews were usually slow, lazy. It would take too much time. It was like someone not utilizing 100% of their workforce. Yeah, well, even the people there, 70 guys, they were running on 50% because they're all bumping into each other. There's too much commotion, right? But these guys are so organized. And the heat, like, they're in the 80s at that time, 80s, 80, 75, 85, 90s. So, well, they just blew through it. But again, in context, 3.5 days compared to 3.5 weeks for same house.
So that helps that turnover time in the end, right?
Yeah, and also the quality of the workmanship. Usually you would think it'd be butchered. They're Hispanic crews, a lot from Mexico, both Central, South America for sure. But ultimately, like, really good. I'm really happy with the construction. And you know me, I'm very picky with all this, right? So, Hey guys, if you like these episodes, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have any comments or questions regarding Toronto or Florida, please leave them below and we'll get back to you with answers. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. See you on the next one.
Ciao.